welcome back to my channel. Today I have a really fun project for you. We are going to be making this satchel. It features some hardware. We've got a little kind of a dog leash type hardware clasp on the front. We're also going to be doing a zipper pocket on the back with some nice edges on it so it looks nice and finished with some cute lining. And then we also have an adjustable strap on this pack. I've had a lot of requests on how to add an adjustable strap to a bag. So we're going to be tackling that in this tutorial as well. It's actually quite easy. It might look a little more complicated, but it's not. So let's go ahead and get started on this fun project. So supplies for this project are pretty easy. You're going to need some kind of a batting or interfacing. I'm just using 100% cotton quilt batting. This is from the Warm Company and it's my favorite kind. If you would like your body to have a little more structure, you can use a stronger interfacing, like a heavyweight interfacing, but I want mine to be nice and squishy. You're going to need some fabric for your lining. You'll need 3 pieces of fabric for the outer fabric of your bag, and I kept my strips here so you can see. This is just the Amalfi print from Rifle Paper Co. They've got a natural color. They have this also black one. You're going to need some fabric for the bottom of your bag and for your pocket lining. And again, I kept my strip for you. This is Cotton and Steel Basics RJR fabric. And that's all it said on it. So it's just got these little nice natural color with little white crosses on it. And I'm going to be using that for the bottom of my bag. You'll also need some fabric for your pocket, and I recommend an 18-inch zipper. You're going to also need a couple of little pieces for your clasps. And then we are going to be working with a little bit of hardware this time, you guys, so don't freak out. I know that when I used to see hardware on a bag, it would make me really nervous, but I've had a lot of requests for a crossbody, adjustable strap kind of bag, and so that's what we're going to be doing today. And so in order to accomplish that, I just purchased these little packs from my Joann's store, and these are in the Onyx colorway, and you're going to need a 2-pack of these little square rings. You're going to need 1 of these dog leash is what they're called, and one D-ring, and these come in 2 packs. We're only going to be using 1 for this project, so you can set 1 set aside for later. You'll also need 1 of these buckles, and they just look like this, pretty simple. And that's it. Oh, and then you are going to need some strapping, and I'm using 58 inches of this kind of cotton webbing, and honestly I just went to the store and I found one that fit inside of the rings that I could find there as well. And so yeah, that's about it. Now you can of course make this strap longer or shorter based on your needs. My daughter is 5'7", and I'm making this bag for her, and we decided that about 58 inches will be good for her. And then you'll just need basic sewing supplies. I've got my ruler, my rotary trimmer, and some pins and wonder clips. So exact cutting measurements for everything will be in the description box below this video, along with links for any products that I'm using as well. So make sure to just click the show more link. It's right below this video. You can get everything you need there. There will also be a PDF download for those of you who prefer written instructions to video. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, we're going to go ahead and work on our little straps that are going to be holding some of our hardware. So these 2 are actually for our strap that goes over our shoulder, and this one. So we're going to set those aside, and these are the ones that we're going to be focusing on right now. So we're going to take our 2 pieces. These are 4.5 by 4.5 inches, and one of them we're just going to press in half, which I've already done. And then we're going to press the sides in towards the center so we can tell where the center line is. Then we're going to press it in half again so we have this nice little flat shape. And then we're going to take this over to our machine and sew about 1/8 of an inch in from both sides. You could even do 3 down the center. You can make this decorative, but we're just going to do that to secure it so that it's not coming apart. So that's one of them. All right, and then on this next piece, I went ahead and pressed in the top and bottom edges, and then again the sides, and then again fold it in half again. So you're going to have one piece that's slightly longer than the other one. The shorter piece is going to go with this little D-ring, and the longer piece is going to go with the dog clasp. So for both of them, run stitches down the long ends, and then don't worry about the short ends yet. We'll get those when we sew this to our bag. So do this to both of your smaller straps, and then next we're going to work on our square rings. So we're going to need our 2 square rings and then our 58 inches of this cotton webbing. And this one, I didn't measure it for you guys, but I think it's about, let's see, 1¼ inch wide. But like I said, just get whatever works with your hardware. And then we're gonna take these and I'm gonna trim off 2 pieces that are 2½ inches long. And I'm just going to, there's 1 and 2. So we're going to just take one of these and put them through our little square here. And mine has an opening, so I'm gonna go ahead and put it through that side just to kind of cover up the, I don't know if you can see it on here, but one of the sides where they kind of clamped it together has like a little mark on it. So I'm just gonna go ahead and fold it around that side. And then I'm gonna take this over to my machine and I'm just gonna stitch along this edge to secure it. And I'm gonna do that with both of these and we'll meet you right back here. All right, so these 2 are done. So we're gonna set those aside and then we're gonna do the same thing with our leftover strap here and our little clasp. And again, we're just gonna run it through there, take this over to the sewing machine, and just run a stitch right along there. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is work on the outside of the bag. And so I'm going to take my larger piece, this is 13½ by 14½, I believe, and we are going to sew it to one of the pieces of the bottom. We're also gonna take the piece that's 6½ inches tall and sew that to the bottom. We're just gonna place them right sides together. And we're gonna sew 1/4 inch right along this edge, and we're gonna do that on both of these pieces, like so. And then we're gonna press towards the darker fabric, and then I will meet you right back here. Okay, so here are our 2 pieces, and actually I decided to press this piece towards the black and this piece towards the natural color. That way when we put our bag together, they'll nest a little bit better and our seam will be less bulky. We're gonna go ahead and take the big piece now and just set it aside, and we're gonna work on the outside pocket. All right, so next we're gonna work on the zipper, and I've gone ahead and just trimmed it at 14½ inches long. Of course, you want your zipper pull inside that 14½ inches, and then I just took it to my sewing machine and just ran a stitch right here and right here just to hold it together. So as you can see, my zipper's not coming apart at all, and that just makes the next step a little bit easier. We're going to take our 2 pieces that are 5 by 1½. Now I say 1½, I'm using a relatively thick zipper. Most zippers aren't quite this wide, so what you can do is just figure out what kind of zipper you're using and then just make sure your fabric is as wide as your zipper. And mine's actually just slightly over. I just like to give myself a little bit of wiggle room. Then I have taken the corners or the edges here and just folded them in and pressed them 1/4 inch in. We're gonna go ahead and then fold that in half, and I'm just kind of finger pressing it. And then I'm going to place that zipper right inside there, and then just make sure that those edges line up like so. And I'm just going to take this over to my sewing machine and just run a stitch right down this, and that's going to give our zipper a nice finished look when we insert it into our bag. And then we're going to do the same thing on this edge as well. And you might want to stick a pin in here just so that this one doesn't move around since it is open. And again, just make sure your zipper pull is somewhere in the middle of this area, and go ahead and do that on both sides, and then I'll meet you right back here. So I'm going to take our outside piece that has the 6½ inch black top on it, and I'm going to align our zipper right side down on top of that. And right side is just the side with the zipper pull. So we're going to align it just right here along this top edge, and the outside of the bag is right side up, the zipper is right side down. And then we're going to take our 12½ inch by 14½ inch lining piece, and we're going to line it right side down on top of the zipper pull here. And then we're just going to take this over to the sewing machine and sew right along this edge. And I'm just going to use a couple of wonder clips to kind of hold all these layers in place. And then I'm going to use my 1/4 inch foot. If you have a zipper foot, you're welcome to do that here. I'm just going to use my regular foot and just try and get as close to my zipper teeth as possible. here is our completed zipper, and I did go ahead and run a top stitch right along this edge just to secure the outside to the lining. And now we're going to add our next piece. So I've got our other lining piece right side up. I'm going to lay our zipper unit also right side up on top of that. And then I'm going to take our 3.5 inch piece. Here's the 4.5. This is going to go on the top. So take this smaller one and lay that down right here along this top edge. And let's get our zipper pull out of the way. We're going to take this over to the machine, and again sewing as close as we can to the teeth of our zipper, just sew right along this edge. Alright, so here we are back, and hopefully you saw in that last video, but I just took a second to run a top stitch right along this bottom of the zipper edge, but not the top one, just the bottom. You'll see why in just a couple of steps here. So the next thing we're going to do is take our little square brackets here, and we're going to place them right here so that the brackets are facing towards the zipper, and then the raw edge is going towards the raw edge. And I'm going to place them approximately 2.25 is what I want, and 2.25. Okay. So we're going to leave those right there, and then we're going to take our remaining 4.5 inch piece and we're going to place that right sides down on top of those. I'm going to use my Wonder Clips to keep that in place. And then we're going to take this over to our machine and just sew right along this top edge, and just make sure you get these little hooks in. I'll probably back stitch a couple times over them as well, just to give them a little bit extra security. Okay, so here is what our bag should be looking like. We should have our zipper nicely enclosed here, and then we've got our little brackets here. All right, our next step is to attach this and the other piece that we just made to our batting. And so we're just going to grab our batting. All right, so here is my batting piece, and I'm going to go ahead and just lay this right along the top there, and I'm going to do this with my other piece as well. And then I'm going to take some 505 spray and just spray just a little bit, not too much, just to kind of hold it in place for me. And this is repositionable, so if your edges aren't lining up, you can kind of reposition that and just get everything nice and secure. And then you can also just double check everything, that when you open your pocket, you're seeing the right sides of your lining and everything looks good there. And then I'm just going to take this over to my sewing machine, and now I am going to run that top stitch across the top of our zipper. I'm also probably going to run one right here, and then probably down here on the bottom, and that's just going to make everything attached to the batting, and also it kind of gives your bag a little bit more finished look. You can of course do whatever kind of design, a quilting design you'd like. If you don't want to do any quilting, you can use Fusible fleece instead of batting. I just like to use batting because I always have leftovers from when I'm quilting, but like I said, you could use Fusible fleece instead, and in that event you just want to follow the instructions on your Fusible fleece to fuse this piece down onto your fleece. We're going to work with the piece with the finished edges and our D-ring. And what we're going to do is we're going to sew that on to the front side of our bag. The side with the zipper pocket is the back side. This is the front side. All right, and this is 14.5 inches wide, so at approximately 7.25 inches is going to be our center mark. We're going to fold this in half like so and place the D-ring inside. And then we're going to put it at about halfway, which is right about there. And then I'm going to take this over to my sewing machine, and I'm going to sew a little square with an X inside just to secure this down. Okay, so here's our finished panel, and I just did some stitching across here and across here. I decided not to do it on this piece just because our other outside bag doesn't have any stitching and I kind of wanted it to line up. And I did give you, because of the difference in zipper size that some of you might be using, I have a little bit wider zipper, you might be using a thinner one. I did give you extra up here on top so that you can trim this to 19.5 inches while at the same time making sure that these bottom seams will line up. So trim anything else extra that you might have up here off the top, don't trim it off the bottom. Hopefully that makes sense. And then that way when you put your pieces together, these bottom seams will line up nicely, and I'm gonna go ahead and do that now. I have about, I don't know, 1/4 of an inch at the top here extra, and I'll just trim that off so that my pieces are the same size. And then we're gonna go ahead and just take our outside pieces of our bags and just place them right sides together and just line up those top edges and the side edges. And then we're going to using a 1/2 inch seam allowance, sew down the right side along this bottom edge and then back up the left side, and then just make sure that you leave the top of your bag open. So here is the outside of our bag, and we're just going to leave it inside out for right now. And now we're going to take our lining pieces and we are just going to place them right sides together and just line everything up nicely. And then we're going to sew down both long sides, and then about I don't know, 4 inches in on each side. Leave yourself about, what is that, 5-inch opening to turn our bag right side out, and then you'll want to leave the top of the bag open as well. And then since we did about a 1/2 inch seam allowance on the outside of the bag, we're going to do a 1/2 inch on the lining as well. So here's our lining, and we have the outside of our bag both still inside out, or wrong side out. And now we're going to box the bottoms of our bags. Now if you've watched any of my videos, I always do it the same way, and I've had some requests to do it an alternate way, and so I'm going to go ahead and show you that now. So this is going to be a little bit different. If you prefer my other method, feel free to use that. Whichever one works best for you. We're going to box the bottom of our bag by 2.5 inches. Okay, so here's the bottom of our bag, and we're going to go ahead and just take our ruler and place it 2.5 inches in on both of our bottom corners. And I'm just going to make a mark, and then you can either cut it with scissors or you can cut it with your rotary cutter. If you cut it with your rotary cutter, be careful that you're stopping right at that point right there. And we're just going to take that corner out. And then we're going to do the same thing with this one. Okay, and then we're going to do that same thing, removing 2.5 inches from the bottom corners of our lining as well. And then we're going to take these corners here, and we're just going to press them flat. And as you can see now, these corners, these lines will line up. So you had a corner that was like this, and then now when you press it, it'll be like this. And using a 1/2 inch seam allowance, I'm just going to sew right along this side. And same right along this side. And in essence, that's usually how I do my other bags. I just turn them to the side like this and draw a line, sew on it, and then trim them off. But you can also do it by cutting out the same size square out of both of your corners. Some people prefer this method because you can clearly see now that you can line up your seams, and so sometimes that'll give you a cleaner bottom edge. But in any case, we are going to line up these side seams, take this over to our machine, and just sew right here along this edge. We're going to repeat this same process with our lining. Alright, so as you can see, both our lining and outside of our bag should be looking like this. We're going to go ahead and leave our lining inside out, so wrong side out, and then we're going to take our bag now and we're going to turn it right side out. And just pop out those corners and just make sure everything looks okay, which it does. I also, at this point, I like to just check my side seams to make sure that I got everything in there. When you're working this many layers, every now and then, you know, they're not quite exactly lined up, and so I just like to make sure that I got all my seams good. All right, and so here's what we should be having now. We should have our zipper, our 2 handle pieces there, and then this little guy here on the front. Now this is the front of our bag, this is the back of our bag. It doesn't really matter at this point. And I will probably go ahead and take this over to the sewing machine and just press these edges just so they're nice and smooth before we move on to the next step. Okay, so I've pressed this really quick so it's nice and tidy. And then we're gonna go ahead and take our little clasp that we have set aside, and making sure that our zipper and these guys are up facing us, we're going to center that along the top of our bag here and just place a little wonder clip to keep that in place. Our bag should be measuring about 14 inches now, and so approximately at the 7-inch marker. We're just going to clip that to this side of the bag, and then we're going to go ahead and take the outside of our bag and just stuff it into the lining, kind of like a pillowcase. And then what I like to do is find these side seams and just line up the side seams here like this. Then I'm just going to line up my side seams first and place a clip there. Find my other side seam and place a clip there. And then you can kind of straighten it out the rest of the way. I'm going to go ahead and put a couple more clips in here just to keep everything organized and all of my layers in a row. And then once you have it all clipped, we're going to go ahead and take this over to the sewing machine, sew all the way around the outside of the edge of your bag using about a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Okay, so here we are. We've completely enclosed our top edge here, and now we're going to go ahead and turn our bag through this hole in the bottom, and we're just going to be gentle. All right, so our bag should be looking something like this, and then we just need to take this over to the sewing machine, our opening here, and I just finger press it in by about 1/4 inch. It should kind of naturally fall that way. And then we're just going to run a stitch right along this to close up our opening. And now we can just take our, I always just double check to make sure I got it. Oh, I think I missed a little section right there. Let me go fix that. All right, so our opening is closed up, and now we're just going to push our lining down inside of our bag, and then I'm just going to take it over to the sewing machine and press this edge in. And then I like to press it so there's just a tiny bit of the outside showing. That way when you flip your bag over, you won't see the lining at all, but it's totally personal preference. And then I'm going to take it over to the sewing machine and just run a stitch right along this edge. It helps hold the lining in place and then gives your bag a more finished look. Finished bag. It should be looking something like this. We're going to go ahead and flip it so that the right side or front is up, and then we're going to fold down our front and go ahead and just clasp our little dog clasp here. Okay, and then we're going to turn it this way so that our little loops are up, and it's very important that the front of your bag is up for the strap to look proper. And so we're going to take our last piece of hardware here, which is this little buckle, and hopefully yours will be similar, but one definitely has sort of like a back side and one has a front side. I want you to put it front side up, and then you're going to take one of the ends of your strap and just go up through the bottom and then back down through the top so that you have it like this, okay? And then we're going to go ahead and just pull it through just far enough that we can take this over to our sewing machine and do some stitching on here to secure it and not hit the straps. So I'll probably just pull mine about that much. I think that's about 1 inch or so. And I'm probably going to run, maybe I'll do a square with an X in it just to give it a little bit of extra strength, and then I'll meet you right back here. All right, so here is my finished buckle. And I'm gonna go ahead and hold it so that the seam side is in my palm. So the pretty side, I guess, is facing up and that the buckle is facing up. You don't want your buckle going that direction, if that makes sense. All right, and then we're going to just pull this strap to get to the other end so that we can make sure that we are not twisting it. And here we are at the other end, and we're going to just bend that end under, okay? So it's flat the whole way up, and then we're just bending it under, all right? And then we're going to keep this strap in this hand just so that it doesn't get mixed up. We're gonna take our free end, and we're gonna come underneath this loop and out the top towards us, okay? So just like that. Then we're gonna take our end here and go up through the bottom, and down in through the top of our buckle, like so, okay? And then you can go ahead and just pull that strap and just pull it far enough that you can see that there's no twists in your adjustable section here, okay? And then now I'm gonna just turn this to the side so you can kind of see it a little bit better, all right? And then we're just gonna go ahead and loop that strap all the way around to our other end here, making sure that there's no twist in it. Again, it should look like this. So it's flat and then it kind of comes up and then flat again. And then instead of coming from the bottom out, this time we're gonna go in from the top down. So in through the top and out through the bottom like that. All right, and then we're just gonna fold that over about 1.5 inches or so. And I'm gonna put a little wonder clip on there just to kind of hold it for a second here. And just far enough over that you can do your square with the X inside of it without running into your hardware on your machine. So you can just kind of eyeball yours, but just take this moment and just make sure that nothing is twisted and your strap looks nice and straight. I'm gonna go ahead and take that over to the machine and sew this section, and then we're gonna be done. So that's it, guys, our adjustable strap pack. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Hopefully you saw that adding the hardware to your project is easier than you may think it was, and we even installed a zipper along with an adjustable strap. So I think we tackled quite a few skills in today's project. I hope you like this one. If you do, please make sure to thumbs up and subscribe on this video so I know to keep making more fun projects. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I will see you next time. Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Erica, and today we are going to be making this really fun... You like the white zipper. Play with the pink zipper. See? Get the pink zipper. Make the white zipper. Ready? Here we go. Oh. Okay, buddy. You're not helping. And I'm just going to put them through my little, what's this called? So that's it, guys, our adjustable strap backpack. I hope you Are you taking pictures or a video? I'm taking a video, okay? Here we go.